Forget everything you think you know about fast trading. We are on the brink of a total revolution, one where AI doesn't just follow our orders, but actually thinks, strategizes, and acts all on its own right inside our financial markets. And no, this isn't science fiction, it's what's happening right now. So today, we're going to break down this new AI-driven world and uncover the hidden risks that, frankly, could affect every single one of us. And this quote right here, it really hits the nail on the head. The biggest deal isn't some single super smart AI outsmarting the market. No, the real story, and what we're focused on today, is how these AI agents are built, how they talk to each other, and, who's actually holding the leash. That's where the real systemic risk is hiding. All right, so to really get where we're headed, you've got to understand where we've been. This isn't finance's first time at the automation rodeo, but we are absolutely entering what you could call the third great wave, agentic finance. And you can see that whole evolution right here. We started out pretty simple with Gen 1, right? Just automating basic rules. Think high-frequency trading. Then, Gen 2 got a lot smarter, using machine learning for things like predicting credit scores. But now, look at Gen 3. We're not just automating one single task anymore, we're automating entire workflows. This is agentic finance, and it is a massive leap forward. This slide really drives home the difference. The old way? That was like automating one little gear in a giant machine. The new way is about giving the entire machine a brain. These AI agents, they aren't just tools anymore. They are active participants in the whole process, from digging through data to actually pulling the trigger on a massive trade. Okay, so let's put a proper definition on this. Agentic finance is any market where AI systems are no longer just background processing. They are now major economic players. And that fact changes absolutely everything for the firms building them and for the regulators who are trying desperately to keep up. So what's actually under the hood of one of these financial AIs? Because if we're going to get the risks, we have to understand how they're built. The best way to think about it is a 4-layer architecture. Let's break it down. Okay, it all starts with perception. This is how the agent literally sees the world. And believe me, its vision is huge. It's not just watching stock tickers. It is simultaneously reading dense corporate filings, analyzing the sentiment of news articles, and even scanning social media to see what people are saying. Next up, you've got the reasoning engine. This is the brain of the operation. And it's not just one single model, it's a whole team. You've got large language models figuring out what the news means, while other models are forecasting volatility. This is where all that raw data, all that noise, starts to look like an actual signal. Now, this is the really cool part. This is where thought becomes action. The agent takes its insights and packages them into something called a decision object, which is basically a concrete proposal. So it might come up with something like, based on these surprisingly good earnings reports and a big spike in online chatter, I propose we buy 10,000 shares of company X with a stop-loss set right here. That's a decision object. And finally, we get to the execution and control layer. And listen, this is absolutely critical. These agents are not just running wild. They're tied to risk limits, they have to go through approval workflows, and there's always human oversight. They have what's called bounded autonomy, which is a fancy way of saying a human is still in the loop, especially for the really big, high-impact decisions. Okay, so we've got a handle on how one of these agents works. But what happens when you have thousands of them, all operating in the market at the exact same time? Well, this is where tiny little design choices can suddenly scale up and create huge market-wide risks. Now, to really wrap our heads around this, we can use a framework called the Agentic Financial Market Model, or AFMM. Just think of it like a giant simulator for the entire market, like a video game that treats the market like an ecosystem of humans and machines all interacting. Its whole purpose is to show us how tiny little tweaks to an agent's design can have these massive, totally unexpected ripple effects on market stability. So this model gives us 5 key dials we have to watch. First, autonomy depth. How long is the leash on the AI? More freedom means faster action, but it also means much faster mistakes. Second, model heterogeneity. Are all the AIs thinking the same way? Because if they are, you get a dangerous herd mentality. Third, execution coupling. How tightly linked are their actions? If they're too linked, you can get a flash crash. Fourth, infrastructure concentration. Are they all using the same cloud provider? That creates a scary single point of failure. And finally, supervisory observability. Can the regulators even see what these things are doing? If not, we're all flying blind. So let's play this out a bit. Let's run a little thought experiment. Imagine a market where tons of different firms all adopt AI agents that are built on the exact same underlying models and fed all of the same data. What do you think happens then? Well, you get herd behavior, but on a scale and at a speed that we have never, ever seen before. If there's no variety in the models, it means when one agent sees a signal and decides to sell, thousands of others might do the exact same thing at the exact same millisecond. And just like that, a tiny little market tremor becomes a massive earthquake. Okay, so let's think about another risk, infrastructure concentration. What if all of these different agents working for dozens of competing banks are all running on the same one or two cloud platforms or using the same single data provider? Well, you've just created a gigantic systemic vulnerability. A single glitch, a cyber attack on that one central point, it doesn't just hit one bank. It instantly cascades across the entire system, causing a chain reaction of failures that regulators would have a hard time even tracing, let alone stopping. And this all leads to the big, flashing, billion-dollar question. How do we govern this new machine? How can regulators possibly manage these incredibly powerful tools without just crushing all the innovation they promise? Honestly, the challenges are huge. When an agent triggers a flash crash, who's to blame? Is it the bank? The person who coded the model? The data provider? How can anyone audit a decision that was made inside a black box? And how do you stop the incredible speed of these systems from creating these insane feedback loops that could spiral out of control? So, what's the game plan? Well, the path forward seems to rely on 5 key principles. First, bounded autonomy. You have to keep humans in the loop for the big stuff and have clear kill switches. Second, traceability and auditability. If you can't explain why an AI did something, you can't trust it, period. Third, diversity by design. We have to actively push back against the whole market using the same model. We need variety. Fourth, embedded intervention. Every system needs that big red off switch built in from day one, not bolted on later. And finally, and this one is so important, supervisory coevolution. Regulators need to fight fire with fire. They need their own AI tools to monitor the market's AI in real time. So, I want to leave you with one final thought. For decades, we've thought about financial risk as, a single bad trade or a bug in one company's code. But in this new world of agentic finance, maybe we've been looking in the wrong place all along. Maybe the biggest risk isn't inside any single AI agent, but in the invisible web of connections, correlations, and dependencies that now ties our entire financial system together.